Did you ever think of yourself as an activist before this, Ty?
No. I mean, I've always tried to like motivate. I can't. I've done a lot, man. I've kind of been there, done that. Got the t-shirts and the tattoos, right? I've done a lot in my life, and very early on, I realized of me going through all that is to, like I said earlier, to help other people go situations better, easier, less painfully. As an activist, no, I never really did much, man. I would like volunteer at youth groups, stuff like that. I try to show up for the youth. I've always been passionate about the youth, just to let them know that, there are people out here advocating for them, fighting for them. But in regards to like protests and stuff like that, no, man, I've always just been super focused on creating a life and providing a life for my family. Um, so it's really only been this last handful of months that, I took it upon myself to organize my own rallies, bring speakers. We've got doctors and microbiologists and frontline nurses and addiction counselors and youth workers. And these are the types of people that I bring to my rallies to give education and information to people that comes directly from source and not a link that got shared or a video or something like that. So, nah, man, I've never really considered myself, at the very least, somewhat, just to say, look, if I can do type thing. And then when this hit, people said, yo, Ty, when did you know? Like, when did you know that all this was kind of bull? And I was like, well, when the second plane hit, it's been 20 years that I've known that you can't trust anything you see on TV, that they're only going to show you what they want to show you on purpose. And that, it's all bitter, man. Like Rome never fell. It's all just from what's going on behind the scenes. And, with all these false flags and things that happen that are spectacle in the media, I just, especially when, there's just two things, like a rule of thumb is, find out who's to gain and who's to lose. Just focus on and listen to the person who's risking it all. The one who's lose, I'm going to listen to them rather than the one who's, people lost their licenses to practice or their registrations or certificates or anything that's been given to them by the governing forces. There's nerve dragged through smear campaigns. Anybody that's speaking out against this thing, people don't listen to them because, but I listen to them more because they're right.
Right,
Ty,
right.
Ty, one of the things I think it was on a recent video you did, and you talked about the importance of giving something or people something to believe in. Obviously, the people who are wearing the mask, getting the vaccine, etc., are buying into something and believing it, and that's why they're acting the way they are. In your, these past few months or whatever, have you found there to be something that it's easiest or easier for people to like grasp onto, something that they can believe in to help them like see the other side of this thing, more effectively than maybe some of the other things you've tried?
It's really just, doing what I'm doing, but in numbers, right? So just organizing things, like it sounds silly, but like maskless shopping parties, we'll get like 30 of us to kind of, not show up as a group, but we'll set a destination and a time, and we'll all just kind of show up sporadically, and shop at a Walmart or a grocery store. And then before you know it, we outnumber the ones that are wearing masks. And then all of a sudden you'll see people looking around like, whoa, did I not get the memo? And then you'll see the mask start to come off, right? And it's like, it really just tipping the scales to show, right? And I think, I don't know what study it was, but I think it's really only 4% is required to kind of shift the herd, right? It's kind of like sheepdogs, you know what I mean? You see the herd and you get that one dog that redirects them to go where they need to go, or they'll have like 4 or 5 dogs. We're those dogs, like we need to show up in numbers and just live. Like we can't, that we're beyond preaching and we're beyond teaching. Now it's like exemplify, right? We have to show them that we can open our business. You will have the community pour into you. You don't have to wear masks. You're not going to die and drop dead like they tried to show us what happened to you in China last April. you know, that people are just getting sick and they're dropping dead. So, you know, yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of like kind of finding your tribe and really just, it's got to be power in numbers, man. Seeing is believing. People need to see it to believe it. You know, whereas I tend to live more by faith than sight, but you know, that's not the reality that we live in. People need to see it. So if they only see one person not wearing a mask, then, you know, you're just that crazy guy, right? But all of a sudden, you know, there's 7, 8, 9, 10 of us, and we're all down different aisles, and we don't look like we're together. And people start going, "Damn, like, you know, we don't have to wear these things." Like, there's been a few times where I've been by myself, and you know, I'm in line to get something, and the person behind the cash is like, "Excuse me, sir, like, you need to wear a mask." And I'm like, you know, well, you know, thanks for your concern, but no, thank you. And oh, well, sir, like, if you don't wear a mask, then I can't serve you. And I'm like, well, that's not true. You're gonna serve me, and this is what I'll get. And you know, they're like, you know, wow, this person just stood up to me, and I don't know what to say next. Because normally people that do, they're like, oh yeah, no, you're right, I'm sorry. You know, where I don't, I stand my ground. I'm like, nope, you know, that's, yeah, I'm here. This is what I want, and you're gonna serve me. Otherwise, are we gonna? And you know, I get served. So people that witness, you know, being denied service and then ultimately being provided service. You know, I've had numerous times I turn around and all of a sudden I'm seeing faces now. And then they express to me that, man, I didn't know that you didn't have to wear them. I'm like, well, how didn't you know that? And they're like, I don't know. I just assumed that it was the law. And I'm like, well, that's the problem, dude, is that you're not doing your own independent research. Nobody even realizes that that it's necessary to cross-examine the narrative. They just think it's on TV, it must be the truth, right? So it's really just, you know, standing my ground, standing in the truth that I know to be true, right? Truth is absolute, it's not relative. You know, it's not just because you don't believe it doesn't mean it's not true. And you know, that's it. But to have people kind of change the way that they believe things or change their belief system, it right now has to be to see it and in numbers. They got to see the numbers. So it's frustrating though. It's really frustrating.
There was this study, I don't remember it, I heard it many years ago, but they put a sign up in a college shower, and it said, hey, to save water, turn the water off while you're soaping. And so then they did the study, and no one would follow it. So then they put a guy in there, and every time he would turn the water off, and then every time he soaped himself, he would turn the water off. And so when other people were in there, a few of them started doing it. Then they put 2 guys in there who would turn the water off when they soaped themselves, and more people would do that. And by the time they got 3 people in there who were showering who would turn the water off when they soaped themselves, everyone else jumped on board and followed.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. The same strategy that they're using this, you're basically just putting the strategy back on them. The strategy was, hey, let's guilt people. Let's make people feel bad. Let's set rules so enough people get masks. And now you're saying, no, we're not going to wear the mask. I've noticed just even yesterday, I was at the park. I go to the park every day, like a skate park or some kind of park with my 3 kids, and I never wear a mask. And it's amazing every time. And most of the parents, I would say, they do wear masks and their kids have masks. But anytime I start talking to a parent, they pull their mask down and they never put it back on. Or if I run into some friends there who have masks on, as soon as they see me, they take their masks off. And it really does work. What did you see that made you think? So the news comes out in China. There's, you know, some people are dying over there, and there's the cruise ship with the you know, where the virus supposedly, you know, remember that whole cruise ship thing?
They
was
were
in the news when this whole thing started. Yeah. What did you see that made you say, okay, I'm not going to wear this mask? What did you see that's like, hey, this I'm not. That's not the way to be the best contributor to humanity.
Well, just being in the line of work that I'm in, I know that, you know, using the respirators I use, you know, and having some knowledge on, you know, what respirators to wear for what, I knew that this little piece of cloth, this blue cloth, was not going to save anybody from catching anything. And it's funny, like when that cruise ship, you know, got stopped, like at the same time, I was on the Disney Fantasy. So I had taken my family on a cruise. We went down to Florida, and we went on a cruise. We went to the Bahamas, we went to Mexico, Cozumel, we went to Jamaica. So we were all over the place. And people were like, "Are you crazy? Like, you're going on a cruise? Like, didn't you hear about the virus?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I heard about it when I watched Contagion in 2011." You know, and they've been putting the truth in plain sight for us for decades. And you know, that's kind of me, man. If you want to know what's about to take place, I mean, just watch what Hollywood shows you, you know. And I just, like I said, like I never bought into it for a second that, you know, we should wear a mask to stop the spread. Because if you really look, if like I knew as a kid that if I was sick, school, because you were sick, you had to run symptoms you had, you didn't go to school. So I know that if we were actually sick and worried about killing people, then we would actually be locked down. Not like locked down, but you can still go to McDonald's and Tim Hortons, and you can still do all the things that you can, you know, pour into the big box corporations. You know, we're going to crush the small guys because that's where people get sick and die. Like, it just, none of it ever made sense. And that's one thing I guess like I've always kind of had is just this like innate sense of discernment and just being able to tell like what's bogus and what's not. And yeah, like I didn't really see much. Like I just, you know, like I said, I've known for a long time that, you know, what's put on TV. I mean, we've probably all seen the Truman Show, right? We're all just extras at best in a Truman Show, right? Like you know, and I get a kick out of people that, you know, call us freedom fighters when really we're not fighting for freedom. We're fighting for privileges, because freedom means sovereignty, and to be sovereign means that you have to get your own food, your own power, your own water, your own everything. To actually be unplugged from the system would be freedom. What us being plugged into them is the same thing. It's like, you know, it's like your kids living at home, right? You live at home, you're not really free. Mom still pays the bills. Mom still makes sure you're fed, all that stuff. You're not really truly on your own until you leave the home. And that's what that's kind of, you know, how I feel about it is, you know, I just knew, I know friends that, you know, are nurses, and I know some friends that went to med school and stuff. And like, they only wear those things when they're considering, like, they're doing like surgery and stuff. And they don't want just droplets falling into open wounds and stuff. Like, it's not respiratory, you know? So one thing that I saw, it's just, man, it started years and years and years and years ago, you know. And even with the toilet paper shortage, like that happened in the Soviet Union in the 90s. Like, seeing these certain things that kind of all tie into like how they're trying to implement socialism and communism, you know, it's all, there's history repeats itself, man. All you got to do is like find out what's happened already, and you'll know that it'll happen again, because there's nothing new under the sun, man. You know, so I wish there was one thing I could say that got me to, you know, thinking, but it's not, man. It's just a collective of like my whole life just being aware. You know, I don't even like saying awake. I don't like these coined phrases of sleep and sheep and awake and woke and all that's just bogus, right? That's still identity politics. I don't identify as any of that. I'm just aware, right?